Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Noose with Tim Lynch. I am Tim Lynch. So, before we get into today's show, a lot of people have been asking me what I think of the whole Trump trial and verdict. And obviously, I have opinions and thoughts, but I'm not really looking to do a show on it quite yet. There are honestly so many things I don't understand that I'd like to define a little further before I kind of put my opinion to video and voice. So we'll leave that aside for now. I mean, the only thing I can see is there seems to be a misdemeanor campaign finance violation that ran through its statute of limitations that the state of New York resurrected and tied it to a felony for a crime that is secret right now. And the judge is a known anti-Trumper whose daughter has been getting millions from this campaign, and they weren't able to get a change of venue. And the judge kept out all kinds of evidence that could help Trump. Yeah, so lots of things that I don't, or maybe I do. Maybe I completely understand it, and it's just horrible. But like I said, I'd rather have some lawyers or judges come on the show and we can discuss in a very objective manner. But in the meantime, let's move on. Again, before we go on, please like the video, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. And now on with the show, which, by the way, I think might be our best show. Today, we're going to be talking about the Chicago Teachers Union. This was a not too recent article, probably within the last month or so, in Fox News. And the headline and subheadline read, Chicago teachers' $50 billion demands include pay hikes, abortions, migrant accommodation. Subheadline? I don't know if that's a thing. The demands include members getting 9% annual wage increases through fiscal year 2028. Now, I do apologize. There's not going to be any videos on this, and there's going to be a lot of me reading the article to you. But believe it or not, it's worth it because I'll make a lot of side comments. So starting with the article, the Chicago Teachers Union, or CTU, is negotiating a new contract with the public school system and is understood to be calling for an extra $50 billion, that's $50 billion, to pay for wage hikes, as well as other demands such as fully paid abortions for its members, new migrant services and facilities, and a host of LGBT-related requirements in training in schools. By the way, just so you know, I'm old enough to remember when that was only 3 letters. It was just the LGB, baby. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, $50 billion, that's absurd. And we'll get into that. But that's actually, not, believe it or not, what kind of raised my radar on this. But we'll get back into that. Let's start with the money, because it is absurd. To put the $50 billion in context, which again, alone, $50 billion sounds like a ton of money, but let's put it into context. The total base tax receipts for the state of Illinois last year were $50.7 billion. So the raise alone will take all of the tax revenue. The raise alone, not what they already are earning plus the raise. The raise alone will bankrupt the state. Again, though, I want to look further into this because you might say, well, there's lots of schools, there's lots of teachers. Maybe, once you break it down, it's really not a big ask. So let's break it down. So right now, this is before the raise, the average salary of a teacher in public schools per the Illinois Policy Institute is $93,182. That is the average salary now. With the raise, by the 2027-28 school year, it will go up to $144,620. Now, you might say, holy crap! An average school teacher earns almost $150,000 a year? And you're right. Holy crap. But again, more context. So just for shits and giggles, let's compare it to a doctor's salary. Forbes in 2023 said the average doctor's salary in the U.S. is $165,347. Now, you may say, and appropriately so, holy crap, with that raise by 2027-28, $144,000, they're earning almost as much as a doctor does. But they don't have the 4 extra years of medical school or the 3 to 8 years of residency. They don't take call. They don't work weekends. They don't have emergencies. No one's dying based on their work. There's no board exams. And frankly, not everybody can be a doctor. It takes a deeper talent level. I'm not saying there aren't teachers that couldn't be doctors if they wanted to be. I'm just saying it's harder to become a doctor. But let's go further. Let's do some more math. So remember that $144,620, that's not a year of work. That's 9 months of work. They get summers off. So let's do math. We're going to school. So $144,620 divided by 9 means they get $16,068 per month. Now, if they worked 12 months a year like everybody else, that would be 12 times 16,068, and that would be $192,826. Yeah, almost $200,000 if they worked like the rest of us. And yeah, $192,000 is more than $165,000. So yeah, teachers would actually basically be getting paid more than doctors. But that's with the raise. You might say, okay, that's the raise. That's never going to happen. But wait, they do still kind of earn a lot of money. What are they earning now? So if the average teacher's salary were to be broken down per month and they had to work a full year, they would be paid $124,240 if they worked full time. Right now, $120,000+ a year if they worked all year round. But wait, there's more. Because again, if we're comparing it to doctors, when doctors retire, that's it, no mas. They don't get anything else. When teachers retire, they get a pension. And what is that pension? Well, that's mucho. The average career Chicago teacher's pension is worth $6,376 a month. Or, when we multiply it by 12, $76,511 a year. Now, I know teachers will say, hey, I paid into that pension. That's just not free money. I deferred that salary till after I retired. That's mine. And that is true. But how much did they pay in? And what are they getting out of it? So a retired Chicago public school teacher makes back his entire pension contribution just 5 months into retirement. So you retire, and basically you're like a doctor for 5 months. You get nothing, except doctors have it the rest of their life. You get 5 months, and then you're right back onto the swing of things. So let's do more math. So if they get, again, average teacher's pension is $6,376 a month, and they make it back in 5 months, 6,376 times 5 is $31,880. So they paid $31,880, and they got back $76,511 a year. Well, what's that math? Okay. So let's just start from the beginning. Let's say you graduate college, you're 21 years old, and you start teaching in a Chicago public school. Let's say you retire at 65, that's the retirement age, and you work 44 years. So that's 44 years of work. Now, you retire at 65, the average lifespan of a U.S. citizen is 76. So basically, you retire at 65, you die at 76, that's 11 years of pension. How much per year? $76,511. 11 years. That's $841,621. That's almost $750,000 over those 11 years. Now remember, they said, hey, that's mine. I paid into it. And they did pay into that. Remember, They paid $31,880 over their career. So let's take their average pension over their lifetime, $841,621, minus the $31,880, and they're left with $809,741. Yeah, remember, doctors, zero. So you may now say, appropriately, that is ridiculous. So the union is saying that is not nearly enough to pay teachers. And don't forget, this is the average teacher. I'm not saying there aren't teachers that aren't worth $200,000, $250,000. I don't know. There may be teachers that are worth $300,000 a year. That's not my point. If you have the merit, you deserve it. But that's just the average. If there's a teacher that's awesome and they are making bad students do well and they are making awesome students do awesomer, they might deserve that salary. I have no problem with that. But this is the rank and file. And how is the rank and file doing in Chicago? Let's see. So, further in the article, the incredible demands are being made despite its members delivering underwhelming results for its students, with only 21% of the city's 8th graders being proficient readers, according to the last Nation's report card. 21% of the students are proficient. Could you imagine saying, hey, I need another doctor for whatever, primary care. What do you know about this one? How's this doctor? It's like, oh, this doctor's great. They're proficient 21% of the time. Are you kidding me? Now, I know what you're saying. Look, Chicago Public Schools, these students, they're living rough lives. They don't have much money. They probably only have one parent in the home, if any, or they're being raised by their grandparents. The culture is tough. There's gangs, all of the above, making it very hard to be good at school. And you know what? You're right. I think a lot of students who do really well are because they have a decent setup and their parents are there for them. But in a sense, what does it matter? So if you're telling me they're kind of destined to do poorly, all the more reason not to invest in it. Nobody invests in poor stock. It's not working. Pull out. But again, this is actually not the reason I really wanted to go into this article, because it starts getting weird. The leaked demands also address disparities in healthcare with a call for 100% coverage benefits for abortion care, 100% coverage benefits for fertility, including full coverage for storage of embryos and other frozen storage needs. I do want to know what other frozen storage needs are. I mean, I know sometimes I buy too many steaks at the restaurant depot and I need some more room, but I don't know what they're looking at here. But it's a bit schizophrenic, no? I mean, I need everything covered so I can have my embryos and children, but the ability to kill them at will. I don't know. I just looked at this and I just kind of got those words from Rush Limbaugh, to paraphrase him. I didn't know teachers were such sluts. Easy, relax, get a grip. Anyway, but there's more. The union also wants more taxpayers' funds to go to migrants or illegal aliens, because there is a difference. In its far-reaching plan, earmarking $2,000 to be given to each migrant to help with academics, transportation, and mental health counseling. I bet all of the students and families that are there already and are seeing no money go to them and $2,000 each to every illegal alien that comes in. The union also wants each of the 646 public schools to have a newcomer liaison for new students, as well as migrant students, illegals, and unused, I got to hit that cough button, my bad, and unused school facilities to be converted into housing accommodation for illegals, migrants. Excuse me. We need to work on that systems issue, sorry. But it doesn't end there. There's also a whole host of other social justice provisions the union wants, including making sure workers and educators are trained annually on LGBTQ+ as a qualification in their job description. They need annual education to learn how to deal with these issues. Groom much? The union also wants to mandate that every school in the district has at least one gender-neutral bathroom. And additionally, it wants the board to adopt policies that would prohibit any member from being compelled to tell parents when a student rejects his or her sex, according to the documents. By the way, it's interesting now, right? They're not choosing another sex. They're not going to the sex they think they are. They're just rejecting their current sex. Yeah. Remember to see one of the prior episodes about transgenderism. I talked a little bit about that. But again, what do groomers do? Step 1, maybe step 2. I don't know. Separate the child from the parents. Now, this is getting to my point. I saw this in the headline, and I kind of blew past the money thing because, number one, $50 billion, it's like, okay, I don't even know what that means until I started doing math. Who doesn't love math? So this wasn't about the money. This was about everything else. And it was abundantly clear, and this is why I wanted to first start this. When I first saw that headline, I was like, this union isn't about the workers or the teachers or even what they can do for the students. This is just an operative wing of the Democratic Party. And I was like, this is what I'm going to talk about. And then I read further down the article, and I saw, this isn't anything new. This is already covered, which makes me feel bad. But still, I think it's important to cover it, even if someone else said it before I did. So Maley Smith, who is a senior director of labor policy at the Illinois Policy Institute, blasted Davis's demands, that's the head of the union, and said that Mayor Johnson of Chicago should recuse himself from contract negotiations. Well, why? We'll get into that in a second, but these demands read more like a political agenda, that's what I was thinking, than a serious contract intent on supporting teachers' wages and benefits and promoting the education of Chicago students. So, again, you might say, look, I know these numbers are absurd and these asks are ridiculous, but it's not going to happen. You know, bargaining things, people always shoot high, knowing that they'll have to give in a little bit to get what they really want. But as we continue to read together, while the figure might seem far-fetched, the union holds tremendous sway in city politics with deep ties to Mayor Brandon Johnson. Deep ties, you say? Oh, do go on. Oh, I will. Johnson is a former CTU legislative coordinator who was put forward by the union to run for mayor. What? Yeah. Johnson is the union's baby. As of June 30th, 2023, the CTU had funneled more than $2.6 million into Johnson's campaign, while he received more than $6 million from teachers' unions altogether. Do you know doctors can't get pens from drug companies anymore? How many pens does $6 million buy? Asking for a friend. Anyway, completely incestuous. So let's sum up. Let's talk about what we've gone over briefly. The Chicago Teachers Union is asking for an absurd amount of money. It doesn't reflect the ability of the state to pay for it. The salary is completely inconsistent with the requirements and needs and asks for the job, and is certainly not consistent with the results anyone's been getting from this job. But furthermore, and again, why I wanted to bring this up, the demands outside the salary unveil the true nature of the Chicago Teachers Union, and that's as a political platform. That is, their demands match the political platform of the Democratic Party. The Chicago Teachers Union is an operative wing of their clan. But here's the deal, and this is why I bring this up all the time. This incestuous relationship, it's standard fare. This type of corruption has been around through all of human time. It's human nature. We will never be able to change this. We can't make new rules. They'll be circumvented. We can't tell people to behave more ethically because the unethical among us will always be among us, and they will always try to take advantage of us. And one of the easiest ways to take advantage of us is to rise above us and govern us. And so the only way to shrink their power is to shrink their tool, which is the government. The corruption will always be there. The machine will always be there. And like any bureaucracy, this machine tries to grow itself. Why do you think they want 646 new newcomer liaisons? It's growing, baby. It's growing. But if we can shrink it, they'll have less power. A smaller, corrupt machine can do far less harm than a large, corrupt machine. And yeah, both machines are corrupt. And if the machine is small enough, then some criminals may not find it worth their time or investment or risk. And so they won't even bother. It's just not enough payoff. And that's our job. Our job is to vote to limit the power of the machine, limit the growth of the machine, even shrink it. Limit the taxes, limit the rules, limit the invasion in our lives. Vote to let government leave us alone. The point of the government is to protect our rights. And when our rights are protected, we thrive. I mean, why do you think we became the most powerful nation in the world so quickly? Because we had those rights that no other country did. But the government has not been protecting our rights recently. We've seen too many cases where freedom of speech was unconstitutionally limited or banned. Our right to bear arms in about half of the states is being egregiously violated. And don't forget the COVID lockdown. They prevented our right to assemble, our right to engage in commerce and religion, our right for our children to attend the public schools that are oh so important. And don't forget the forced vaccinations on adults and children. So vote to shrink the government so it can perform its minimal duties, not so it can encompass every part of our lives and every part of our world. In the words of the late, great Ronald Reagan, you know what? I'm going to let him take us out. We'll let him do it. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."